All right, it looks like it's live. I'm going to give it just a minute to catch up. And perfect, there we are. Hello, hello, everybody. I'm squeaking in just a minute late. We had another side class going this morning for retailers that I was moderating, so I was just kind of scrambling to get my last little bit of stuff ready to go. But welcome, and I'm excited to craft along with you guys today. Let me finish getting this set up here so I can see everything on my screen the way I want to. There we go. I like to get it. So for those of us joining, I'm going to give a minute here for everybody to kind of find it while we get ready. And then I'll go over a couple things, but I see Leah's already in the comments. So we're all set there. I mean, you can probably see out my window over there. I don't know if you can fully see it, but it is rainy, it's windy, it's yucky. We're supposed to get all kinds of wintry, snowy, cold weather. Um, for Washington, it's supposed to be really, really cold here later this week. Fix that on my camera real quick. So we're just kind of in the whole mix and muddle. I'm really hoping our power has blinked a few times with the wind. And a lot of people in our area have been out of power. So I'm just kind of crossing my fingers that our power stays on. If I suddenly disappear, just know that that's probably what happened, and then we'll just figure it out and catch it up later or something. Who knows? But I did want to just give a heads up in case that did happen and I vanished. You wouldn't wonder where I went. So, oh, Leah, yeah, I was gonna say, I think like later this week here in which again is really unusual. There's some days where we're not even supposed to get above freezing. We're supposed to get down to like 0, which is when I lived in Wyoming, yes, that was normal. In Washington, that doesn't happen very often. So fun times. I'm just hoping we get a little bit of snow out of the deal. Leah knows how excited I get about snow, and I know it's coming in the mountains, but we'll see if it gets down where we are. So, all right, we've given a few minutes for everyone to kind of hop on and find us. So let me go through a couple things before we get started. First off, if this is your first time joining us, please let us know in the comments. We love to know and we love to welcome you. As I go through everything and start crafting, I might miss some of those, so I'm just going to say a big um, hello to everybody. Leah's making fun of me, or non-snow. It still counted. It was white and falling from the sky. Tell me I'm wrong. And it wasn't a thunderstorm and it was cold. So sorry, when I visited her, I was excited about it snowing and she was arguing that it wasn't snow. So I wouldn't say we agreed to disagree, but we definitely disagreed on that. So, all right. So if you're new, please do that. And also, if you're new, a couple things to go over, or reminders for those of you who join us regularly. We give away a $15 gift card for every one of these lives. And the way you enter for that is just what everyone's doing already, chatting in the comments. Each of those comments you leave are an entry. Leah will randomly draw that at the end of the live to win a $15 gift card. One other way you can enter is by sharing this video. You can grab that share link or from your web browser. You can share it on your own social media, in a message or an email to a friend. If there's a crafty page you're part of that you know that's allowed, just double check those rules. You can share it in there. And then the only way we know you did that is if you come back and leave us a comment letting us know that you shared. So please do that. One other thing we're super grateful for, it doesn't necessarily count as an entry for the giveaway, but if you hit that little thumbs up button, that just helps our reach, helps more people find us, both while we're live and also on the replay. Um, Final things I already mentioned, Leah is in the comments in the chat. She's going to be answering any questions that I miss once I start crafting. So if I miss, or we both miss at some point, please just leave that comment again. Every now and then the comments start sliding by really fast and we can sometimes kind of miss a little bit of that. So I promise we're not ignoring you. Sometimes it just gets busy. So with that, oh, and then everything I'm using today, next week, Leah and I will be back together with a sneak peek live for our January release. But today, there's nothing new. This is all release products, so I have everything linked in the video description, as far as I know. In case I throw anything else in, then we'll get to that at that point. But as far as I know, everything that I'm using is all set and ready to go. So, and I'll let Leah tattle on when her birthday is if she wants to. I know it's not today, but it is coming up soon. There you go. She did say it. All right. I'm going to switch my camera on. We're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm excited to kind of show you guys a little bit of what I have planned today. All right. the camera switched around and worked like we wanted. So part of why I'm excited today, I'm using, let me pull over the ink colors that I'm using. I'm using all of our new ink colors with an older set. And here's why, because I realized, look at the back of that. I always love the mock-up images on the back, and I love coming up with new and fun ideas to use them. But when this came out, I remember kind of trying to recreate it with the ink colors we had. But knowing that our new ink colors were coming and now seeing how perfectly they match, I'm really excited to create that in real life with the new ink colors, or pretty close. It might be a little bit different, but I think it's going to be really beautiful. So I'm excited to do that here today. And then I'm going to mix it with one of the new sentiments. I'm pretty sure one of these, I haven't fully decided. So when we get to that point, we'll figure that out. But yes, this is one of my favorite floral sets and I hadn't pulled it out in a while. And then a rectangle die, because of course we need something to kind of put it on. So, um, so yeah, let's go ahead and get this out and get started. I'm going to set my inks over here out of the way. Realized I forgot to grab my Misty out. So I'm going to do this in a couple parts because I want to add, I'm going to stamp it in detail black ink. But I want to stamp it first in a soft gray while I ink blend. But I also want to create an extra layer. I'm going to stamp it heat emboss in white on some vellum, just because I think it's going to add a fun little detail layer, a little bit of texture, and a fun little bit of interest. So we're going to go ahead and do that first while my stamp is all nice and clean, and I don't have to clean it so hard in between. So let's get that vellum tucked in there. Grab my embossing ink that, of course, I also forgot to get out. This is just clear embossing ink. And I'm gonna stamp this out well. Oh, I almost forgot. Told you guys my brain's half dead today with moderating and being on the computer for a couple hours and then right into live very shortly afterwards. So, okay. Let me get that powder tool on there. So that'll help keep, once we stamp this, it'll keep any excess powder from sticking anywhere we don't want it to. All right. Let's get this rolled over. I inked it up well. Usually on vellum, I don't restamp, and I've got two reasons for that. First of all, it picks up the ink really well, so I rarely find I have the need to restamp. But also, it tends to stick to the paper, and even putting it down flat, I feel like I often get a double image. But I know you probably can't really see that. I'm hoping you can kind of see that reflection though, but it looks like it's stamped beautifully. We're gonna go for it. Be better if I grab white, not clear. I don't think clear is going to show up very well. All right. And let's get some white embossing powder. So yeah, I feel like it just moves and it's hard to get it back in the exact same place. So I feel like I just have better luck if I just stamp once. And again, it feels like the vellum really does a good job of picking up the ink. Make sure we've got all of that image covered. Oh, I'm messy with embossing powder, I tell you guys. All right, I think we've got that all covered really well. So I'm going to put that away. And then really quickly here, before I heat emboss, I'm just going to wipe that extra powder off my desk. And let's grab that heat gun and let's go ahead and heat emboss this. Okay. Looks like that worked. How beautiful is that? I feel like it just looks like it should go on a wedding invitation or something. It's beautiful. All right, one question I get asked a lot is about vellum and how to keep it from warping. It always is going to a little bit, like if, I don't know if it'll show on here, but if you kind of look at it sideways, there's a little bit of a bend to the paper. This is I've got several brands of vellum and they all seem to work pretty similar. This one is from Simon Says, whatever their brand is. Um, but the best tricks I can just tell you is when you heat emboss, don't heat it any longer than you absolutely have to. Don't get the heat gun too close and keep it moving. Don't hold it in one spot too long. So I kind of just go back and forth. But yeah, pretty much any vellum should work for heat embossing. Heavier is probably going to do a little bit better, but I've got several that are all kind of similar weights. But I love how easy it is to heat emboss, and I love that beautiful look that you get. All right, we're going to set this aside. We'll die cut this a little bit later. But for now, let's go ahead and get our image stamped here and ready to do our ink blending. Oh, good. I was hoping I kind of set that in a good spot, but I could stamp right onto my image there. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp in Rocky Slope. Again, I'm going to finish stamping at the end with detail black, but I wanted to start with something lighter for the ink blending. If you do detail black too quickly and ink blend over the top, it'll smear and that'll ruin your image. So you can either heat set it or give it time to dry, but we've just found we like to do a double stamping technique because once you ink blend, the ink gets on top of whatever you've stamped a little bit. And so once you ink blend, if you restamp over the top, even if you do it in like a gray ink like this, you're going to get a much crisper, brighter impression anyway. So this first one doesn't have to be perfect, but it really did stamp actually really well. So I think we're good to go and get started on that. All right, let's move a couple things out of the way. Grab my spots here to start the ink blending. And of course, our stencils would probably be helpful. Oh, obviously I have several sentiments from this set that I need to use up too, but we're gonna mix it up with a different sentiment today. All right, I'm just gonna go through the stencils right in order. Again, I'm using this as my inspiration. So we're gonna just kind of keep that up there so we can sort of see it. Let's spread those out a little bit so they're in reach. And I'm just gonna go through, actually, you know what? I take that back. I am switching it because I'm doing both of those flower layers together, which is stencil 1 and 5. Then I have both the greenery layers in one spot, and I'll do those purple flowers as one, which I just noticed it's only one layer, but I'm gonna add some blending with the two colors there anyway. So, all right. So we've got our first, hold on, now I got it mixed up. What I do, there we go. There it is. All right. So I will do stencil 1, 5, 3, 2, and 4. You can do them in any order. I just try and, the main thing I think I try and do is make sure that whichever, like if I'm doing the floral layers, I wouldn't want to switch these two layers because I want the main layer first, then the detail layer. So that's really the only consideration when I'm layering up stencils. Otherwise, you can kind of mix things up a lot. Yes, Vicky, that actually is another, I don't think I mentioned that tip. You might have noticed when I heat embossed on the vellum, I kind of put it on my hand so I could feel when it was getting hot before I started on the vellum. So that helped me out quite a bit. Okay, I'm not using any of the very lightest colors, so I'm just using this one set of blending brushes. So I'm going to just kind of make sure I dry clean off my brush a little bit. I'm not, in fact, I might just do that a little. I'm going to grab a little rubbing alcohol and just clean off each of the brushes I'm going to use today with a little bit of rubbing alcohol just to kind of get the excess ink off of there so that I'm not starting off blending too dark to begin with. And you can kind of see it just lightens up the end of that, cleans it off a little just so you don't have a ton of excess ink. And the rubbing alcohol dries really quickly, so you're not going to keep your brushes too damp to use when you get to that. All right, so my blending brushes out of the way, and let's start with our first stencil here. I need to try, so Leah has been using the grip mat. I'm still old school taping, so it's my turn to try something new here one of these days. So I need to branch out and give that a go here. I saw Leah just mention something about the current monthly challenge, which is it's basically an anything goes. So it's a recap of everything from the previous year. So this is a great opportunity to join a challenge without it being too terribly complicated. All right. You notice here I'm kind of starting off in this little center section and blending out from there so that I get my concentration of color will kind of be right in around this border frame, which I feel like kind of is a logical spot for a bit of a shadow to form, right where that layer is. So I think this is going to work really well here. I've really been playing lately with my blending brushes, and I know like dabbing off the extra ink is really helpful for keeping a nice soft blend. But I've also noticed sometimes I tend to push too hard. So I'm working on just a lighter touch with my brush. And I feel like that's helping me, especially when I want to blend softer. And it's helping me get a smoother blend as well. So kind of just a fun, if you feel like you struggle with ink blending and getting like that really soft gradient or something like that, give that a little try because I found it being kind of helpful for me. All right, you might notice I'm also coming in deeper on those berries here because I want to get a little bit of variation on those as well. And I think that's kind of an easy way to add a little deeper color spot there too. All right. And I think that's working pretty well. So we're going to call that good on that layer. Okay, that out of the way. Let's kind of wipe off that ink just a little bit. And let's see our first stencil layer. Doesn't look like much yet, but it's going to come together. All right, so that was stencil 1. Now we're going to stencil 5. Again, you can do these right in the order they're listed, and especially if it's something that I keep trying to line up my corner alignment guides and forgetting that I stamped, so I don't need to do that. All right. And this one works really easy to line up if you line up on the lines there to start with, and then just slide it back and forth until you get everything aligned in the stencil layer. So really easy on this one. Okay, so that first layer was Mimosa. Now we're doing Mango Sorbet. And I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to come in the same area there with my deepest color and then just kind of blend out from there. Again, keeping that nice soft touch with the brush to keep the layers going the way I want. And then again, coming in with a little deeper tone on the berries there to really get that pop of color on there. All that extra ink. Okay. I think we can all be guilty of that overzealous blending, which again gives a nice deep color, and that can be a really pretty one. Oh, Janine, I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, I hope you heal quickly and feel better. And then did I see Bonnie? Congratulations on retiring. I'm so glad you could join us live today too. All right. There is that second layer on those flowers. Isn't that beautiful? I can't wait to stamp over the top of this one. I think that's really going to bump it up here to the next level. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on, like I just said, to that purple layer. So we're going to go line up this one, get it all set into place. All right. So this one, we're going to start with Hydrangea. I had 2 colors pulled out because I didn't look close enough, obviously, to realize that this one was only a 1 layer. So it's going to be, I think we're just going to add a tiny bit of gradation. I want to say gradient, but it's just gradation for the trying to combine those into one word. All right. So we're mostly just going to do that, but I think I'm actually, give me a second. I'm going to grab my little tiny blending brushes. I'll be right back. I don't have a little mini one yet for these colors, so I'm just going to start. And they use the 1/2 inch so much more, but I think this is a great time to pull out those little bitty 1/4 inch blending brushes and get a little bit of detail in there. So I'm gonna grab that deepest new purple color, the Opulence, and just add a little bit, which is kind of still hard to only get it in there a little, but we're gonna give it a try. Just add a little bit of fun detail. A little heavy on that part up there, but again, trying to keep that soft touch. Kind of forget how fun these little ones are to use too, so I'm glad that we can break those out and put them to good use a little bit today. All right. So that's going to conclude our purples. And I can see, I hope you can see that on there too, that little bit of gradation. But let's pull this off and see. Ah, so pretty. Definitely going to see so many crisp details come out on this with the double stamping at the end. Lee Murphy, all the tiny brushes. I know. It's like mini slimline cards. Anything small is just by default so much cuter. Don't you think? At least I followed that theory. Okay, let's move on to our greenery. All right, so we're going to start here with eucalyptus. Let's pull out my green blending brush. And let's see, where do we want to start here? I'm going to just start moving from on the florals out so that the deepest area is the part closest to each floral. I think that kind of makes the most sense on this. Some of them are pretty small, so it'll be harder to get quite as much. I suppose we could always, I don't know if you guys can hear the rain pounding against the window there. In fact, I think it's hailing a bit. That would make sense. It's actually haily and not snow. So far, it's way too warm for snow. I think there's kind of some thunderstormy stuff going around, so. All right. Looks like it's slapping my window out there, so. And then the wind is blowing it sideways just to make it extra fun. So. All right. I think, make sure I've got enough color on all the spots there where I want it. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to swap out my ink to the next color for the next layer. That eucalyptus is just such a dreamy, pretty green. I love it. All right. We are getting close to done. And can you see how fun that image is coming along with those colors? I love it. All right. Final layer here. And this one, I don't know why it wants to stick to that there. Goodness. Gonna help to line it up to some of those stems that don't have color yet. And if you line those up, everything else is just gonna fall right into place. So there's a stem here and here and here, and all of those kind of make everything else work. Okay. This one, we don't have to worry as much about gradation because there's not very many areas. Mostly on the leaves, I might try and kind of see if I can hit a little bit there and do that. But for the most part, it's just going to be getting color on there and blend it out. Okay. think that does that one. So this is our final layer. See how this looks. Are you ready? Ta-da! I feel like that always needs that at the end of a good ink blending session, right? Final pull off of the layers. All right, this is where we're going to watch it come alive now. And a couple things out of the way, and then we'll pull back our stamping platform, and we'll restamp that in that crisp black, detail black over the top. So if you can see, so it's really pretty with that soft gray. If I was leaving it gray, I would still restamp it. Part of me is almost tempted to do that, but I really want to see it with that crisp black. Actually, you know what? First, then we can just see it. I'll stamp it in the gray first, then I'll do detail black. That way we kind of get the best of both worlds. We can kind of see the difference even restamping the gray makes on that as well. Okay. Can you see already how much detail we gained back just by restamping in that? Man, it is really tempting to leave it that way just because it's so pretty, but I'm going to stick with it. We're going to do the detail black because I really want to see how that looks. So we're going to go for it. I'm going to commit, but I think it would be lovely either way. And it's always hard because when you love it already, you don't want to keep going and do the next thing, but oh my goodness, it just pops when you do that. Oh, and that's actually a really good image. I'm still just going to restamp it for good measure one more time. So I feel like there's a couple little centers of the flowers maybe are at the only spot that maybe needs a little extra stamping. So we might as well just do the whole thing. Oh, it's so pretty. It's just vivid and bold, and look how that kind of compares to that. It's just like that, but a little more alive. I don't know how else to describe that. So pretty. All right, take a minute here, set this out of the way, and quickly clean off my stamp here with that detailed black. It's just my damp cloth. Normally I would spray stamp cleaner, but I've been using this cloth for a while. So when I wet it, I basically got stamp cleaner in it already. So I don't have to add much more. All right, move my brushes out of the way because I'm done with those. I'm gonna clean this stamp off here and put it away real fast because we're not doing too bad for time. Holding their breath at the restamping, I think we all do. Okay, get this out of the way. We'll use that in a few minutes to restamp our sentiment. But first up, we've got our two florals. We're gonna have to do our sentiment in a minute. We also need a die cut a panel. So let's do a little bit of die cutting to start with here. So we need a coordinating die for this. And if you notice, there's also that fabulous sentiments on here are one piece. So you get all those lovely sentiments in one stamp and one path. So I clearly have several of these ready that I've used or had from other projects. I'm going to switch up the sentiment today, but I did want to show you real quick just how well those sentiments work and how fun it is that they're all in the one piece as well. All right, but we're just going to pull off that one piece die for the flowers. And we're going to line this up here. I'll use my tape. And let's get this carefully lined up, taped in place, and then we'll die cut this real fast and move on with assembling our card. Two plates here real fast, and I will be right back with this. Okay, I have to die cut the vellum ones too, but look at how beautiful. I love that it cuts in two pieces. So you can stamp it in one and just keep it as one piece or reassemble it in the two pieces, but it gives you so many more options. That's kind of just a fun thing with that. All right, are those, nope, they're not gonna come out. Let's see if we can pop. There we go. All right, And then we'll go ahead. Oops, I'm throwing my thing around. I always like to put it away when I'm done. All right. I'm gonna save this because I might be able to sneak it in my sentiment on there. If not, I've got some other scraps, so I'm not too worried either way. Okay. Carefully line up. Like to take my time and really make sure I've got it in place exactly where I want it. Especially on the vellum, it can be slippery and move a little bit when you don't want it to. Okay, let's go die cut this and I'll be right back again. Hey, there are those beautiful layers. And my plan here is to kind of reverse those. Get hold of this and tuck it behind so you get this lovely little puff of that pretty white kind of tucked from behind. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of how that's going to go. All right, we are done with this now. So let's save our tape there. Set that vellum aside. There's some little scraps there I can make use of for later. And then we're going to do, I always keep my extra die cut frame tidbits in the back here. Keep those tucked in there for now because I think I just want to do, oopsie, throwing these around. Yeah, I think we're going to do this size of frame because I think that's going to be the perfect size. And I'm just going to do it from white cardstock for now. We might do a little bit of ink blending. And I am going to grab, just because this is the folk edge rectangles. There's a tiny little detail around the edge. So I like to use the little bubble wrap trick for this, just because it'll help cut those out quicker and save me time punching them out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and be right back. Right, now, other than our sentiment, we're done with our die cutting. I'll punch all those little bits out of that later, but I'm not going to drag you through that right now. Got enough things to work on, so. And if you look at that, it got almost every one of those out of there. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 left that I had to punch out, and the rest did all the work for me. So yay for that. Love when a plan works like that, right? Okay. So we might want to do a little bit of, yeah, I think we are going to want to do a little bit of soft ink blending on the background here. And then I have 2 card-based options that I already pulled out. Let me get those. Get them ready. I think I'm going to want that bolder one. Yes, because that's going to show the pop behind the frames there. The other option is this soft. Ooh, you know what now though? Having second thoughts now. I thought I'd want the bolder one, but I think I'm loving that soft look with the bold florals because it lets the florals just kind of shine. So I think I'm gonna switch. So that first one was a color from Concord and Ninth. This one is Spellbinders. I think it's called Barely Peach on this one. And I think they still have it. I'm not entirely sure on that one. Let's plan where we want to put. I kind of like that Life is Beautiful. Ooh, but then, oh, and then the Beyond Happy is really fun. Celebrating You. Huh. Life is Beautiful. I think I like that one. I think that was my original plan, and I think I'm going to stick with that one. This would be such a fun card. You could make it in a whole rainbow of colors. And just change out the sentiment in the middle and make a whole note card set or something like that. And actually, you know what? I'm torn now because I was going to do a little soft ink blending in the background, but now here's another thought. I'm gonna backtrack here. What if we die cut that frame in that and put it on a white card base? You know what? I might be switching my mind because that'll make that vellum pop really well. With the white behind. Let's try one last one. Okay. We're skipping the white card base. We're going to die cut out of that. We're just going to do all color. I think that's what's going to work. So I'll save this frame for later. And now I do have to try and get all these little tidbits out of here since I need to use this die again. Oh, but they all came right out when I whacked it. So thank goodness for that. All right. We're going to switch our plan a little bit here. Grab out some more bubble wrap and do another little bit of die cutting here and go a little more. Usually I don't use that much colored cardstock, but that just suddenly jumped out at me and said, do it this way. So I'll be right back. I'm going to grab my, oh, let's see, plates here and a little bit of bubble wrap to pop it on. Or bubble wrap, bubble mailer, I guess. And I'll be right back when we're done. Right, here's this. Okay, and once again, oh, that did even better. Okay, so there's, well, those all stuck in the die, but I didn't have to punch a spoke. I take that back. There's one there that fell right out easy. All right, let's check this out now that we kind of have this together. Oh, yes. Okay. I'm very surprised, but I really love that layout and I love that color and all the options there. So let's see if I can whack a few of these out just so that we'll put it away. Kind of a great trick. It gets your crafting aggression out and it, look at that. It cleaned all of those out. Just snapping it on a glass mat or a desk or whatever. On the bubble, you know what? This time, Allison, I did it on the bubble side because I'm going to cover that up because I had some of my address on there. That's why I did that side. But yeah, that was how I did it this time. Usually I do it on the paper side, but clearly it works on either side. So, but yes, that bubble mailer trick is such a good trick. I absolutely love that. All right. I have not scored my card base yet, so let's go ahead and do that and then stamp our sentiment and start assembling this all together. And then we'll even have time, I think, to add some bling at the end. This card came together and I didn't really do any prep this time. So I'm pretty happy with how quickly everything's working out. Okay. I've even heard, because I know Leah said something about usually doing the paper versus the vellum side. And again, I usually do the paper as well, but I've even heard people just using scraps of actual bubble wrap. So I know that's an option as well. All right, I'm going to grab, I think my scrap here isn't quite big enough for the sentiment, but I've got plenty of scraps laying around. So I'm just going to pick one of those and we'll use this to stamp our sentiment. And I'm pretty sure I'm just going to go with black on this, but I'm a little torn on if we should stamp it in a color. And if so, my first thought is that deep purple, which I'm going to do a little bit what Leah did here recently. I'm going to quickly just clean off this, just season the surface of this a little bit. I know Leah just uses a general pink eraser. This is just a light mono. That seems to work for me when I need to season a stamp. My cloth is nice and damp, so I can give it a good scrub off there. This is a little bit of a solid image, so I want to make sure it's nice and clean before I try to stamp with a colored ink. So let's see if that cleaned up well there. Let that dry completely. And then let's try that with that Opulence. I think that's all good and dry. So let's see how this works. Looks like it's off to a good start there. Oh, that came out lovely. I think that'll work really well. And that deep color, it's just going to add a little hint of color that's close to the black, but just a little bit of interest to that sentiment that so it kind of looks black now, but as with all dye inks. It's going to soften as it dries. So you're going to get a different look too as it dries. The Beyond Happy stamp set. Yes, it absolutely is. It was from a past event and it is available and in stock and everything. I double checked that. I wanted to make sure before I submitted. Okay. Let's see if we can find, I think on the first try, this one was a little easier to pick out of the grouping here. Let's get this die cut. Keep that in place. Just gonna pull my little bitty die cut machine out. Yeah, so the eraser trick when you get new stamps, especially when they're a really solid image like that, they sometimes can have just like a little bit of a film for manufacturing. It's not a big deal. It's just something that can kind of happen. And normally when you stamp, like if you start off by stamping an embossing ink or something like that, you won't necessarily notice. But sometimes you might see a little bit of a gap, especially with colored ink. So we always like to mention that trick so that everyone knows it's kind of just a good way to prepare your stamps to hold ink better, essentially, is what you're doing. So, all right, that getting out of the way here, and then we're ready to start doing our final assembly here. So we're going to need some liquid glue and, of course, a little bit of foam adhesive. But let's start here by putting, I think we'll pop this up with foam because you can never have too much foam. Right. Make some more foam sheets, but I think I've got enough here for a start. In fact, yeah, hold on. I just like to keep all my scraps from these, so I think I can make this work pretty well. With that, don't even need that big. And by that piece, that's still too big. Hold on. Here we go. That's a perfect little piece. That way I can make good use of all those scraps. Thank you, Tina. I'm so glad you guys are loving these color. I mean, I can't really take credit for them because the idea came from the back of the packaging, but I really love how it's coming out. Foam panel on here. So if you haven't joined us before, you might not know these are, I learned this trick from Leah to make our own foam panels from, it's just like kids' fun foam, the white play foam, and then white sheets of score tape. So a lot of times I have scraps when I cut a panel down or use part of a panel. And so I'm just making use of those because I'm out of big panels, but Mary, yes. Okay, if you can have too much foam if you're putting it through the mail. So the beautiful thing is this would be absolutely easy to recreate without the foam layers, and you could totally do that and make this much flatter. Just use liquid glue or flat foam tape. But if you're going to hand deliver, if you're sending it in a package, or giving it to a friend that you're going to see in person, that's when I feel like there's never too much foam dimension. But yes, I do fully get what you're saying there, that is a challenge. All right. So again, on these floral layers, I just want to show you, I alternated. So these are the same and these are the same, but instead of putting the same one behind, I alternated so they poke out a little bit different on each one. So I'm going to quickly adhere. I'm just going to add a little layer of liquid glue to tuck these vellum ones onto, let's see, I think I'm gonna, got a little blob of glue there on the end of my Barley Arts glue. Let's see if that fixed it. Use the pin a little too. It's been a day or two, right? There we go. All right, I'm just running a little line along the edge there. And then I can layer this over the top and then jiggle it into place where I want it and get those adhered together. I'm gonna set a clear block on that for a minute while we do the other one. And again, just running it along that bottom edge. It's all gonna kind of adhere together once we get everything on there. All right. Okay. jiggle it around. All right, and we like that as well. So that's going to be a good start there. All right, I'm going to give those just a second to adhere down and dry and grab my bling because I didn't grab that out yet. So I put on a few colors here. I just hadn't grabbed them out yet. Nope. All right, now I gotta remember where I put it. Now I can't find one of them. Give me just a second here. I had more options that I wanted to consider, but for some reason, there it is. I basically looked right at it and went past it. All right, so I'm not sure which combination of these I'm going to use yet, but I pulled out the Clear Drops in Leaf, Lilac, Champagne, and Ice, which is the clear. And actually, as I'm looking at that, I might switch out. Just test and see, because I might like the, yeah, maybe we'll keep out just the purple, which is the deeper. There's lilac and the purple. So in fact, the same might go for the green. Basically, we're just going to pull out all the traces. So Emerald City might go better on there too. So I don't know. We'll leave them all there and we'll be ready for the blocks on the flowers. Yeah, it's kind of just a fun grid look, I guess. All right. Now we're going to pop these up. And I should have done this before I glued those together, but I do want to curl up that top layer a little bit just to kind of fluff it up to keep that dimension a little. So you can kind of see it just, it's going to separate those two layers slightly to kind of add that contrast feel of the two layers together there. And then, oh, you know what? So we didn't do it that way, but I hadn't thought about. Maybe I want to switch that and do, now I don't know. Let's see how that looks on there with that sentiment in the middle. We can totally switch that too. What do we think? Let's try it both ways. I think on this one, I'm actually kind of excited about it framing from the middle more because I feel like with that sentiment, that's a little more fun this time. But now you see the other arrangement too, and it gives more options. But let's go ahead and do this one this way, I think. And I'm just going to wiggle it around so that I kind of try and keep it mostly within the confines of the card. And then we'll add a little bit of foam adhesive on the back of these to stick them down. I want to trim this because I don't need much. That there for a second. All right, let's center this. Slide those down. And again, put this one just so that it mostly is within card. I'm okay if it pops up a little there. This one's kind of big anyway. Let's cut that other half of a piece and pop that on the back here. And then we'll do the same thing down here, sliding it down as far as we can. The important thing is to keep the line level, so pay attention to that. Kind of the important detail. Okay, and then grab some little pieces of foam here to pop on the back of our sentiment. Let me make sure there. I might not need as much there, so I'm gonna swap that out because right in there is where it's going to pop over that floral. So I want to leave it a little more free floating so that it's not. Okay, and I think I want to kind of center that so that floral is just going to tuck behind it, which is going to add a fun little bit of dimension there. Okay. Put that there. Make sure I'm centered both side to side as well. Okay. As level. Okay. Sticking that down and committing there. So we've got that on there. Look at how beautiful that's looking already. Oh, good. For a second, I suddenly thought, did I put my card base upside down? But no, we're good. So we just need to finish off with some bling, and this card is done. And that came together really quickly. Okay, now is where we need to see. The champagne. I think I'm liking the darker of the colors, and then maybe just the champagne for the third color. So I think I'll have to change out the ones I linked because I'm gonna use a little bit different colors here than I originally assumed. I'm gonna get my three. I have three trays because I love doing little clusters of different colors. It's kind of handy to have a few of those for that purpose. And I think you're okay too, because I might want to let's test this out. That's too big. I think if I do this, I need slightly smaller ones. Let's try that. Oops. Put them in the center of those flowers. We'll see. Test out a couple there. I do kind of like that. I think that might be a good. Let's decide if we want one on that flower too. I don't think I want it on that flower. I feel like that one is better just simple. So maybe on those two. And then let's decide here if maybe we can tuck. You know what? I don't even know. I'm going to check though. I might just stick with that same. I feel like those are just too bold. I couldn't tell until I got it on there, but I think I just like a little bit more of this one tucked on there. It looks like I'm going to need, well, there's one more of the little bitties. Flip it upside down there. Ah, there we go. And let's decide if we want to do kind of the same over on that side. Like a little bubbling row. And then I do need one more of the smallest of this one. Come in and just grab one more there. As I'm doing this too, I actually might switch because I'm realizing it might look a little better tucked in the corner there, but I have to test it to see. This one has a little more room. Okay, last one there. I don't know. I think I like it better around the sentiment, so we might stick with that. Just had to kind of see what I thought. Oops. Sometimes you have to do it. That's why I always plan out my placement before I adhere that bling down, because you just never know what's going to work. I kind of like that two little circles kind of coming around. All right, before I stick those down, I'm going to clean this off. Put these away so I don't bump them and mess up my system here, because we've all done that before, right? One last thing I just have to check and see. Just want to make sure that it doesn't look good with, nope, those are definitely too big. Just suddenly had that thought of, I wonder if that would work. And nope. So we are just going to stick with one single one, keep it easy. Catherine, this next release does not have any press plates, but I know there are more coming up, I believe in February. So we are working on them. Amy, thank you. It's not, just like everybody, Leah and I laugh. We still have our ones that we don't love that everyone doesn't necessarily get to see. But we have those moments. But it does really help. I always feel like I can give a lot of credit to having beautiful product to work with. So half of the credit goes there because it makes my job pretty easy. Oh, and I moved that. Felt like I got a little glue on my finger there somewhere. Right, here that last one. And that does it. We are finished and done to go. All right. Deborah, that is a really good question. I actually have no idea. We always advise signing up for restock notifications. That way you're the first to know when it comes back. All right. Look at that. That is a lot more colored cardstock than I generally ever do on a card. I'm kind of a white cardstock person, and I think it was really pretty with the white and the neutral background too. Kind of tempted to redo the card and leave it that way as well, just for the comparison. But I really love all those bold colors. I love that inspiration from stamp packaging for our colors. Like I said, that's always such a great reference. Even if you don't use the colors, it's a great way to see where all the colors go when you stencil it out. So, all right, I'm going to switch my camera around and we'll let Leah pick a winner. And then we're going to land this right on time today. Always love when that works. Okay, a nice little delay there while it switches. A little of my iced tea. Goodness, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you did not hit the thumbs up yet and you enjoyed this, we would, again, just really appreciate if you can do that. That helps. Now at this point, I hope more people find it on the replay. Oh, goodness. Okay. When things on your desk start falling, I promise it wasn't even an earthquake. It's my little desk vacuum thing, so. Shelly, if I said your name right. I'm glad you left the color combo. Awesome. All right. Today's winner is Tina Lewis. You even picked a name that was easy for me to say. Congratulations. You won today's $15 gift card. All the info is in the comment that you're tagged there. To claim your prize, you just need to email Leah at pinkfreshstudio.com. Her name is just Lea. There's no H on the end. And give her 2 or 3 business days to get back to you. She gets lots of emails, so that'll give her time to reply to you. So big congratulations, and you can go shopping sooner, or you can hang on to it for the next release that is just, let's see, let me think here real quick. A little less than 2 weeks away. I was going to say just over a week, but a week and 6 days is closer to 2 weeks than 1 week. So I won't tease you needlessly. And again, join us next week. This is our only live for this week. Next week, we'll be back with 2 lives. On Tuesday, you get Leah and I together for a sneak peek of the January release, and it's a good one. And then next week on Thursday, we'll have another scrapbook live, but no scrapbook live this week. So have a great week, everyone, and take care. Stay warm and cozy in all the snow or yucky weather, and I will see you next week. Thanks for joining me today.